Welcome to the next session, my dear friends. In the previous session we are discussing about the flash mixing and its design, everything about the flash mixers. Now in this session we are going to start the next mechanism, that is slow mixing. Next mechanism, that is slow mixing or flocculating chamber. Slow mixing or flocculating chamber. So once the fast mixing is over, the coagulant will reach all the locations of the water in the mixing basin. So the coagulant will disperse completely, and now the coagulant is adsorbed on the negatively charged particles and neutralized them. So in rapid mixing, adsorption and charge neutralization will take place. But settlement of the particle, will not take place during the rapid mixing time. So it will take place during slow mixing or flocculating time. Okay, slow mixer or flocculating chamber. Slow mixer or flocculating chamber. So in this process, the destabilized particle allowed to get a contact to each other in order to promote agglomerization. So I told you in the beginning of this topic, we are having two things here. One is destabilization, and next one is agglomerization. Next one is what? Agglomerization. So in the first process of rapid mixing, destabilization will take place. Now in this slow mixing, agglomerization, so bringing those neutrally charged particles together is nothing but agglomerization. That will happen here with the help of the flock. So the rate of flocculation depends on one, turbidity, that is turbidity. If it is more, if the turbidity is more, then the flocculating will also more. The rate of flocculation rate will be more when turbidity is more, means more particles are there, easily they will come together. So early, very faster, larger flock will form, it will settle down. So that is called rate of flocculation. And if the type of coagulant and its dose, So depending upon the type of coagulant and its dosage, also the flocculation will depend. I told you already, if you are using iron coagulant, then iron flock will form faster, and it works in wide range of pH, and the flock size is also larger. So the rate of flocculation is faster in the kind of iron flock, whereas in alum it is little slower in comparison with iron. And also if the dosage is lesser, then flock formation will be lesser, because when the dosage is less amount of flock will form, which may be insufficient for the formation of flocculation. Okay, so that is why, depending upon the dosage and the type of coagulant we are using, this flocculation will depend on. Okay, so next one is temporal mean velocity gradient Z. temporal mean velocity gradient. This is also a very important factor that affects a very important factor that affects the slow mixing or flocculation of the alum. See, in this chamber of flocculation or slow mixing, perikinetic conditions will occur. So in this chamber, perikinetic condition will sustain or will present. Okay, perikinetic condition will be present because due to Brownian movement of colloidal particles. So here what happens, slow mixing itself says we are doing the mixing slowly. So that is why here there won't be rapid collisions, there will be collisions because of Brownian movement of the particles. Because of the Brownian, we have already discussed what is meant by Brownian movement in soil mechanics during the discussion of Stokes' law. So here the collisions between the particles, is due to Brownian motion of colloidal particle. So because they are very small in size, they will be having Brownian movement. So during this Brownian movement, it will come in contact with the flock, and again it will stick to the flock as the flock is an amorphous gelatinous precipitate. And during this colloidal particle came and stick to the flock, it will become microflocks, and 2-3 microflocks will come together and form macroflocks. So we will discuss all those things in this slow mixing only, it will be coming. So here there will be a dimensionless number that affects the slow mixing. The dimensionless number is, see, G is having a unit of second inverse. So G into TD. Okay, G into TD. Here TD is time of mixing. Or detention time in the slow mixing chamber. So G into TD is a dimensionless number. Which affects slow mixing. So here how it affects slow mixing, just wait for a while, we will understand how this will affect the slow mixing, we will understand. But this is for now, this is a dimensionless number which affects the slow mixing. And one more thing here we need to remember is the collisions. Number of collisions between the particle depends upon this dimensionless number. So number of collisions between the particles. Is also decided, is also affected by this dimensionless number. If G is more and TD is less. If G is more and TD is less, how this is affecting the slow mixing, let us understand now. In a clear manner. So if G is more and T is less, that means we are giving more velocity gradient within less amount of time, right? When G is more, TD is less means what? We are giving more velocity gradient within very less amount of time. If g is more and Td is less, Td is less. So if g is more and Td is less, that means g is more means what? This is a shaft. G more means the difference of the velocity is more. The difference of the velocity is more, right? The difference of velocity is more. It is a rotary kind of movement. So the shaft is rotating either clockwise or anti-clockwise in a circular way. So now here, when it is rotating in a circular way, so when there is more velocity difference is there between the particles. Okay, so let us just visualize the same thing. Let us visualize the same thing in our real life. Take a bucket of water. Take a bucket of water and add some kind of obstacles, small kind of impurities into the water. Small impurities into the water. And put your hand into the bucket as a shaft. Okay, open up your hand like a paddle. Open your hand like a paddle and mix now. Mix now. If you are mixing faster, okay, you can do it. It's a simple experiment. You can do it easily at your home also. If you mix water with a higher speed for smaller time, okay, so you are having the same particles, same bucket of water, same shaft, but only difference is change the velocity of the shaft, change the duration of velocity given to the shaft. These two things you do and observe. When g is more means these particles are being forced more. So because of which what happens? So this particle will come here, this particle also will come here. So it will form like all the obstacles, all the particles will arrive towards the center. Okay, when you are moving faster, all the particles will come and arrive the center part at where you are applying this force, but it is happening for smaller duration only. It is happening for smaller duration only because you are giving that velocity for smaller time. So all the particles will come together and come very near to each other, but you are not giving more time for this happen. So that is where the particle size will be small, but the packing of the particle is dense. Are you getting my point? The packing is denser because more velocity gradient is given. So that means if you increase the velocity gradient, density increases, density of flock increases, and if you increase the time of mixing, then size of the flock will increase. Size of flock increases. Density, no matter with the time, density is not dependent with the time. Density is dependent on velocity gradient. So here more velocity gradient is given, that means we will get a denser flock. But a small time duration is given, that means we will get a smaller flock. Smaller but denser flock we will get. Smaller but denser flock we will get. So SDF, small denser flock will form when G is more and TD is less. And now when G is decreased, time increased. then large lighter flock, larger lighter flock will form, larger lighter flock will form. Okay. Now our interest here is we want denser, bigger particles, denser particle as well as bigger particle. We don't want lighter as well as we don't want smaller. We want larger and denser flock. That is our requirement. If you want to get larger, denser, you may think that if we increase G and TD, so don't we get larger, denser flock? No. You won't get when G and TD both increased. Why we don't get? Why we don't get? So the flock which has formed. So what happens now? As I told you already. So all the flock will come. So it has reached to the center. Still you are giving the same. So some more flock will come and join the center. Okay. Some more flock has come, so it has increased its size. Still you are giving more velocity gradient. This flock will break down. This flock will break down again into two pieces. So if you give more velocity gradient for more amount of time, it will cause disintegration of already formed denser flocks. There is some limitation of size, beyond which the size will not grow. Further, it will get disintegrated again into pieces. So that is why this is not a correct idea to get lighter, larger, denser flock. This is not the right idea. This will disintegrate the flock. Okay. So if you do this, then flock will get disintegrated. Flock will get disintegrated. So this is not a better idea. Then what to do? So if you decrease both, what happens? No flock will form at all. No flock will form. So this is not a right idea. This is also not a right idea. So we need to use these two concepts only to get our work done. How to do that? Let us see now. How to do that? So this is the main theme of slow mixing. If you will get to know now how generally we will get larger and denser flock with the available two combinations. This is the slow mixing chamber. This is inlet, outlet. These are the paddles, chamber 1 and chamber 2. Chamber 1 and chamber 2. Here in chamber 1, we will put G more and T less. We will keep G more, G1 more and TD lesser. Okay, G1 more and TD1 lesser. Then what happens here? So smaller, denser flocks will form. Smaller, denser flock will form. When it is moving towards the outlet, here another chamber is working. Along with this chamber, another chamber is working with a concept of G2 lesser, TD2 larger. Another chamber is working within the same water with this concept. Then here what happens? Then here larger but lighter floc is formed. Larger, lighter floc is formed. Larger, lighter floc is formed. Now we are allowing this smaller, denser floc to pass through this chamber. We are allowing this smaller, denser floc is passing through this chamber. It has found larger, lighter floc. And now this denser floc will attract this larger, lighter floc. And now this will become like this. Larger floc having denser at the core. So now this is larger, lighter floc is now getting attached to the denser core. Smaller, denser floc is going towards the outlet by taking this larger, lighter floc along with it. Now it has become what? Larger and denser floc is going outwards. How we have did this? Simply within a chamber we have created two conditions by which combining of these two conditions we are getting larger, denser floc. This is how the flocculating chamber will work. Here G1 is greater than G2 and TD1 is less than TD2. Generally, G outlet, G inlet by G outlet, we keep it approximately 2. Generally, we keep this is equal to 2. So this is how the flocculating chamber will work. So there are some design parameters of this flocculating chamber. Let us see those design parameters. Let us see the design parameters of flocculating chamber. So here in flocculating chamber, G and TD plays a major role, which I have already told you that I have explained logically now. The logical explanation is over. So the design parameters of flocculating chamber. Design parameters. G, we need to keep it 10 to 75 second inverse, because here G will be lesser because it is slow mixer, whereas there it is 700 to 1000 second inverse because it is rapid mixing. And TD or DT, detention time, 10 to 30 minutes. There it is 30 to 60 seconds. There the time is very less because the G is very high. Okay. Here G is very less, that is why TD is very high. The volume of flocculator V is equal to Q into dt. V is equal to Q into dt. And surface area is V by, if you know the depth of the tank, then V by D is D is the depth of the tank. And N varies between 1 to 3 RPM. The RPM varies from 1 to 3 RPM. So these are the design specifications. Of the flocculating chamber. And afterwards we will send this water into sedimentation tank. The next and last device in Clary flocculator is sedimentation tank. It is a regular sedimentation tank only. So we don't design it separately. How we have designed in plain sedimentation, in the same manner we will be having a sedimentation tank here. We are having a circular kind of a sedimentation tank will be there. we will be having a circular kind of sedimentation tank. Here there will be flocculating devices. There will be motors here at the top. There will be motors. There will be a platform here. There will be motors. So you will be having shafts like this. You will be having shafts like this which are flocculating. So here there will be a chamber. Here there will be like a chamber. So from here water will enter into the sedimentation tank. From here water will enter into the sedimentation tank, and so there will be a small duct here. So there will be a small duct here. From here we will take the outflow. So this is outflow. So the diagrams and all are not needed. Okay, diagrams and all are not needed. No need of diagrams. Just I am saying that this is a schematic diagram of the sedimentation tank only. And here design parameters is important. There all the design parameters are same. Only two things will vary here. The design parameters. So one is detention time. Here detention time is lesser. It is 2 to 4 hours. There it is 4 to 8 hours. Here it is 2 to 4 hours. We can reduce the detention time by 50%. And overflow rate, it is 1000 to 1250 liter per hour per meter square. So this is V naught, 1000 to 1250 liter per hour per meter square. So this is all about the treatment of water. In treatment of water, sedimentation aided with coagulation. Now we are going into the next stage of treatment, that is filtration. Let us see what is meant by filter and what is the necessity of filter. Though the secondary sedimentation tank removes the colloidal particles, still there will be some amount of finer dissolved particles and also some kind of colloidal particles still remain in water. So to remove those dissolved solids and dissolved gases and any kind of organic matter, microbiological load, all these things which cannot be taken care by sedimentation tank, either it may be plain or aided, that will be taken care by filtration. Let us see filtration. So it is a polishing or fine tuning step to remove any unsettled floc. In secondary sedimentation tank and very fine suspended and colloidal matter which is coming out of primary sedimentation tank. So this is working for both primary sedimentation tank as well as secondary sedimentation tank. If it is a primary sedimentation tank, the finer suspended particles or colloidal particles will be removed here in the filtration. And if it is secondary sedimentation tank, so whether if there is any floc still unsettled, that will be taken care here in the filtration. Okay, so that is a fine tuning of the water before sending it for disinfection. So here in this process, I already told you, we remove the whatever the finer suspended matter, colloidal matter, dissolved gases, dissolved metallic ions and microbiological load such as microorganisms. All these things can be removed here in filtration. So here the water is allowed to pass through a bed of porous granular media, filter media. We call that as filter media, and these particles are strained on the filter media. and this filter yield whatever the particle that is being forced onto the filter, that will be removed through the filter media, and whatever the water coming out of this filter will become the particle free water that will get at the outlet, that we will get it at the outlet. So generally the filter media, what are the different kinds of filter media which we use? Different kinds of filter media. Generally either we use silica sand, as a filter media, or simply natural sand also, and anthracite coal, and garnet sand. That means pebbles, crushed pebbles, okay, pebble stones, or green sand. So we use, this is a uniform material. See, this white sand is being used because it is a uniformly grained material which is very small, and the pores are very small, so that majority of the impurities can be arrested. Only water can pass through these pores, rest of them can be arrested in this media. That is why we use a filter media. So these are the filter medias. What are the different kinds of filters we are having? What are the different kinds of filters? We are having different kinds of filters. Okay, let us see what are the different types of filters we are having. Classification of filters. Classification of filters. Classification of filter. So there are different kinds of classifications. First of all, classification by the force on the filter or force of filtration. Classification based on force of filtration. So based on force for filtration. Either the filtration may takes place under gravity. Either the filtration may be taken place under gravity, or it may takes place under pressure. If it is under gravity, we call it as gravity filter. If it is under pressure, we call it as pressure filter. And based on the number of media we are using, based on number of filter media, based on filter media, single media filter, that means only one filter media will be there. Dual media, that means two filter media will be there. Dual media. And if the more than two, we call it as multimedia or mixed media filters. Multimedia or mixed media filters. Okay, so this is the classification of filter. This is the classification of filters based on filter media. Based on rate of filtration, there is another classification based on rate of filtration. Based on rate of filtration, one is slow filters, another one is rapid filters. Slow filter and rapid filter, where the filtration process is slow, that is slow filter. Where the filtration process is faster, that is rapid filter. So these are the classifications of filter. These are the classifications, different kinds of classifications of filter based on different kinds of criteria. And now, so what is the theory of filtration? What is the theory? How this happens? Mechanism. So what is the mechanism of filtration? Let us see how the filtration takes place. Mechanism of filtration or theory of filtration. Mechanism of, first one is mechanical straining. Mechanical straining. So what is meant by mechanical straining? What is meant by mechanical straining? See, we all know that whenever we want to do filtration, we need to use a sieve which is having lesser diameter, lesser sieve size than the impurity. Then obviously the impurities will be arrested on the top of that filter media and the pure thing will go out. So pure water will pass through the filter media pores, but the impurities cannot go through it. That is nothing but mechanical straining. That is nothing but mechanical straining. So the suspended particle more than the size of the pore spaces, the impurities are removed by mechanical straining on the pore spaces which is less than the size of impurity, that is nothing but mechanical straining. And next one is sedimentation. See, here if you understand minutely, very specifically, in mechanical straining, particles having size more than the voids gets removed, whereas the continuous voids present in the filter media, will act like a tube settlers, and arrest the finer particles than the pore size also. Here, if you look at the filter media, so the pores present in the filter media, okay, when some kind of particle which is passing, if it is finer particle, so larger particle anyways it will be removed on the top of the filter media only, but the finer particle may enter into the pores. During its path, it will lose its energy or it will gain its size by taking some more impurities or else by attaching to some kind of flock. So now what happens? So it cannot move further downwards. It will either go and stick to this particle or go and settle like this. So this kind of settlement, finer particle has entered the pore, but it is not moving downwards. It is moving either sides, any of the side, and settling there. This kind of settlement is called sedimentation. So that is again one more mechanism by which we can remove the particles. Okay, so when a particle or the continuous void spaces present in the filter media, acts like a tube settler. Acts like a tube settler. So by which the even finer particles are also gets removed when it entered into this tube settler. Okay, even finer particles are also removed. This is sedimentation, and very important mechanism, very important mechanism for a filter. Now we are discussing, that is biological metabolism. Very important and a key mechanism which is very important for the removal of impurities, because the void spaces present in the filter media, fresh filter media, the void size and void space present in a fresh filter media is not sufficient to remove the finer particles, colloidal particles and dissolved impurities. So filter media is not fit for doing filtration. But when the biological activity starts, when the biological metabolism starts in the filter media, then it will become fit for doing filtration. How? I will explain it now. Listen. Biological metabolism. So when the filter is commissioned, when the filter is commissioned, new filter is commissioned, the raw water starts passing through the filter. The raw water, now you have commissioned a filter, you have started to send the raw water in through the filter media. Now after some time, reddish brown sticky deposit of partially decomposed matter will appear in the filter media. Okay, partially decomposed organic matter will form because of the organic matter which is present in the raw water. It will get deposited somewhere, not at the top or not at the bottom, somewhere inside the filter media. It will get deposited. This partially organic matter will get deposited. After the deposition of the organic matter, soon the dependence on the organic matter such as algae and bacteria, microorganisms will come to eat that partially decomposed organic matter. So after some time, algae, protozoa, bacteria, all the kinds of organisms will arrive to consume the food, that is organic matter. So the sticky, so after the consumption, they forms a decomposed organic matter, which is a gelatinous layer. It will form inside the filter media. A gelatinous layer will be formed inside the filter media, which is called Scumbergicate. So, or we call it as simply dirty skin. So unless this dirty skin is formed, we don't consider that the filtered water is fit for drinking. So up to the formation of Scumbergicate, we leave the filtered water unused. We don't consider them as a filtered water. Once the formation of Scumbergicate is over, then we will take the water which is coming out of the filter as filtered water. That much is the importance of the Scumbergicate. Okay, so filter media is not fit for filtering unless Scumbergicate is formed. Okay, so metabolism, biological metabolism means the partly decomposed organic matter, decomposed organic matter present in water, organic matter present in water gets deposited in the filter media, soon after some time algae, bacteria, protozoa, etc. will start consuming the organic matter, and forms a gelatinous layer which is called Scummagicae. Or dirty skin. Okay, so unless this dirty skin is not formed, we don't treat that water as filtered water. And there is one more mechanism, that is electrolytic action. See, electrolytic action means the filter media's charge. So generally filter media will also have some charge. Filter media also carries some charge. The filter media's charge and charge of the incoming impurity, if they are opposite to each other, so there will be some charge due to the filter media, and some incoming impurity is coming, there will be different charges. Then the impurity will settle down inside the filter media. Okay, so to neutralize its charge, that kind of removal of impurity by charge neutralizations is nothing but electrolytic action. Electrolytic action. Okay, now here the filter media. So if the charge of filter media and incoming impurity are different, then the impurity gets removed by electrolytic action. But there is some limit for this charge transfer, because the charge of filter media is fixed. So if the complete charge is exhausted because of the incoming oppositely charged impurities, at some point or other the filter media loses its capability of charge neutralization. At that point of time we need to do maintenance, otherwise what happens, it will not be having any more electrolytic action removal capacity. Okay, so these are the mechanisms in the filter, and in the next lecture we are going to discuss slow sand filter, the first type of filter, that is slow sand filter, and also after slow sand filter We will discuss rapid sand filter, pressure filter, all those things. So how to design it, okay, how to design, what are the design parameters, all those things we will learn. How it operates, how we need to clean it, all those things we will learn in the next class. Thank you so much.